Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Pliagas with Realty 411 Magazine, and this is our weekly Blog Talk Radio show, Invest Wisely. And today we are going to learn all about finance and what's going on in the finance industry. So today I have the pleasure of interviewing Robert Blair with Colony American Finance, who's a leading provider of financing solutions for residential real estate investors. Now, Colony American Finance provides attractive long-term debt products for stabilized rental portfolios, as well as credit lines for new acquisitions. And today we're going to learn all about what's going on in the finance world. Robert, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Linda. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. How's everything in Houston?
Everything in Houston is fine. Cannot complain at all.
Wonderful. Well, I met you in person about 5 months ago at the Texas Expo in San Antonio, which is produced by Victor Moss, a friend of mine, and he's with the San Antonio Real Estate Investor Association, and we met there. It was wonderful to meet you and to sit right next to your booth. And what's been going on since then? Because we were discussing what was happening in the mortgage industry at that time. What's going on now, and what has changed since then?
Well, Linda, demand has continued to be very strong, and fortunately for investors, capital remains available, particularly for those seeking to acquire single-family homes. As you mentioned, Colony Finance is in that line of space, and by the end of this week, we will have closed $1 billion, and We've been doing that since we got started about 15 months ago. So demand has been very strong, and despite the decrease in the number of REOs available to be purchased, investors continue to find properties to acquire and grow the size of their portfolios, which in many cases we are able to finance.
Now, I understand that Colony American Finance lends on an investor's portfolio. Tell us how that works and how that's different from other traditional lenders or lenders in the finance space.
Certainly, Linda. Traditional lenders generally finance one property at a time. Here at Colony, we're able to finance an investor's entire rental portfolio with a single loan, one closing, and one monthly payment. We do require a minimum of 5 properties, and on the upside, we can finance several hundred properties at one time. We offer term loans collateralized by 1 to 4 unit properties, condos, townhouses, and apartment buildings containing up to 20 units. Our loan product can be used to recapitalize an existing portfolio where an investor has embedded equity in it. We can do a cash-out refi, or it can be used to acquire additional assets. We offer repayment terms of 5 or 10 years with a 30-year amortization, 75% LTV, and we generally close in about 4 to 6 weeks with interest rates starting around 5%.
Very attractive, 5%. Now, can you educate our listeners on non-recourse loans? Tell us how they are different. Why is it important for investors to learn about these types of loan products?
Certainly. Our non-recourse loan offers investors the flexibility of not having to personally guarantee repayment of the debt. Oftentimes we deal with institutional investors, and they're set up in a way that a personal guarantee is not part of their business plan. So we're able to offer them a similar type loan. However, the non-recourse feature takes away the personal guarantee feature. It's also a very viable tool for foreign investors seeking to acquire U.S. properties. However, we do have the traditional bad boy carve-outs for waste, fraud, and environmental contamination, but it is an opportunity to pursue a transaction with us on a slightly different basis than a recourse loan, which is fully guaranteed by the borrower.
Right. So are all of your loans non-recourse? Are some of them non-recourse? How does that work, Robert?
That's an option that's available to the borrower. So the borrower can choose to either pursue a recourse transaction with us or a non-recourse transaction with us.
Would the interest rate differ from one product to the other?
The interest rate for a non-recourse loan is the exact same as the interest rate for a recourse loan. However, there are some structural differences to the non-recourse product, and there's some additional accounts that have to be set up in order to provide for instances where a borrower may go into default, and we call that a trigger event. So structurally, they're a little bit different, but the rate, the term, the amortization will be exactly the same.
Well, that's very nice. In addition to the traditional longer terms, I understand that Colony American Finance also offers lines of credit for investors. Now, can you explain that in further detail, Robert?
Sure. We offer two different types of acquisition lines of credit. One is called an entrepreneurial line of credit, and the other is an institutional line of credit. The entrepreneurial line starts at a minimum loan amount of $500,000 and goes up to $5 million. It's primarily geared toward the individual investor that wants to either fix and flip a property, or it can be used to aggregate a portfolio of loans that can then be refinanced with our term loan product. We generally finance up to 80% of the cost of each acquisition under the line. It's done for a period of 12 months at an average interest-only rate of 9.95%. The institutional line of credit starts at a higher amount. That starts at $3 million, and that goes as high as $50 million, and that's geared toward larger, more experienced institutional-type investors. We also finance up to 80% of the cost of each acquisition on that line, and interest rates on that product ranges from 8% to 9.95% interest-only, payable monthly, and the term on that goes as far as 18 months. So both of these products can be used to acquire, either to buy properties, fix them up and flip them, or they can be used to aggregate and build a portfolio. And that's completely up to the discretion of the borrower.
Well, for those listeners who would like to speak with you about some financing options, can you please share your contact information with them?
Sure. My phone number is area code 713-725-3067, and my email address is robert.blair, that's BLAIR, at Colony, COLONY, American Finance, all one long script.com. So that's robert.blair at colonyamericanfinance.com, and the number once again is area code 713-725-3067.
Now, I'm assuming that you have clients all over the country, Robert. I know you're stationed in Texas, but are your clients spread out throughout the country?
Yes, they are. We are a national lender, and we operate across the entire platform from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so my clients can be in Texas, they can be in Florida, they can be in California. It just all depends upon how that relationship was started, or perhaps maybe how that account came into being and assigned to one of my, either myself or one of my fellow originators.
Wonderful. Now, can you give our listeners an idea of atypical transaction, or perhaps a transaction that stands out in your mind as an investor that was really able to leverage their portfolio to see growth and expedite their portfolio, utilizing Colony American Finance's programs?
Sure, I can give you two examples, Linda.
Okay.
I recently closed on an acquisition of a 67 single-family home portfolio that was located in the Midwest and acquired by a private equity group located in Texas. Another transaction is I provided a 10-year term loan at a fixed interest rate. The loan was collateralized by 190 properties that were located in various cities throughout the state of Texas, and the borrower behind that was a local home builder. So that's just a sample of some of the types of things that we do. But we also do smaller deals, and we do larger deals. So, as long as it fits the parameters, 5 property minimum, $500,000 loan minimum, we can work with the borrower and try to get those deals across the finish line.
Wonderful. Now, being in this industry for a while, do you have any tips or any advice for our investors who are listening? What if they're really interested in leveraging their existing portfolios? What tips do you have for them, Robert?
Well, I would recommend that, first of all, they can certainly give me a call, and I can walk them through our programs in greater detail, get a better idea of what their needs are, and see if there's something that we can match in terms of either recapitalizing their existing portfolio, i.e., for example, they bought 10 houses, they paid all cash, and they'd like to get some cash out to continue to buy properties, or we can provide a line of credit to someone and allow them to use that to acquire additional assets as well. I would also ask them to take a look at our website, colonyamericanfinance.com, and there'll be some good information on there as well as and provide them with some ideas in terms of what we do and how we operate and so forth.
Perfect. Now, speaking of operations, what are some key elements that separate your company from other businesses in the finance industry?
Linda, Colony American Finance is a specialty lender. Okay. We have a national footprint, and we're focused solely on providing debt capital to non-owner residential real estate investors. From originations and marketing to underwriting and due diligence, that is all we do. We have a team of experienced originators that operate in local markets across the U.S., and because we're laser focused on only this aspect of the finance industry, I'd like to believe that we are the best at what we do. And so because we operate only in that space, and that's how the company was set up, we do a relatively good job. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be closing on $1 billion in transactions this week, and wow. I think that speaks to what I just mentioned about, our laser focus on this particular spot in the industry.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that accomplishment. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now share with us your contact information once again, Robert.
Sure. The phone number is area code 713-725-3067, and my email address is robert.blair, that's BLAIR, at colonyamericanfinance.com. Now,
do you have any predictions on what investors can expect in the coming months, even the coming years in terms of financing options? Where do you think this is all heading?
What I'd like to say in response to that question is the market for single-family rentals has evolved since the crash in 2008. It's always traditionally been a mom-and-pop business. However, since that time, it has attracted a significant amount of institutional capital. these funds have gone out and bought thousands and thousands and thousands of homes and have turned them into rental properties. I believe that because of that, more products will evolve to meet the needs of a rapidly changing investor base. I can't say what they are, but I do believe that there will be a supply and demand, and there'll be a push and a pull, and that more products will be developed specifically for this market. So that would be my prediction for the future if I had a crystal ball and if I could look into it and say, where do I see things changing? I think it'll be more on the product development side.
Very interesting. Before we get off, let's touch upon the very important development that we're seeing right now, and that is the foreign investor. How are you seeing foreign investors coming into play in the market right now? Are you seeing a spike in activity? And how does Colony American Finance provide options for the foreign investors who want to purchase properties here in the U.S. or expand their portfolio further?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because there was an article that came out recently about the change in the pool of foreign buyers coming into Texas. Traditionally, it's been dominated by Latin American investors, but now that dynamic is changing, and we're getting a lot of buyers coming in from China, Europe, and Africa. And so the whole dynamic is shifting. Fortunately for us, we are able to lend money to those types of investors. We do that on a non-recourse basis, and we find them, they find us. I'm actually working on a deal now with an Australian investor. He owns a portfolio of houses free and clear. We're going to pull the equity out of that transaction and allow him to use the equity to acquire a portfolio that he's looking to purchase here in the United States. So we do work with foreign investors quite a bit, and the due diligence is a little bit different, but at the same time, it is an opportunity that we see very often and we pursue. So for us, that's good. It gives us a larger pool of clients to pursue, and we like doing those kind of transactions.
And not very many finance companies are able to do those types of transactions. Am I right?
I'd say the competition is fairly narrow, and so that does give us a leg up. And like I said earlier, we're very narrowly focused, but we're laser focused, and so that's part of our market. And for us, it's a great opportunity.
Well, great, Robert. Is there anything else that you would like to add or anything that we didn't touch upon that you'd like to share?
The only thing I'd like to say, Linda, in closing, is that Colony American Finance is a national lender, and we stand by ready to assist the financial needs of real estate investors, both large and small.
Wonderful. Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to reconnect with you. It was really nice to meet you at the Texas Expo 5 months ago, and hopefully we can network in person again real soon, whether it be in Texas or an event elsewhere.
Linda, I look forward to it.
Thanks again, Robert. Why don't you let our listeners know your contact information once again before we wrap it up?
Certainly. The phone number is area code 713-725-3067, and my email address is robert.blair@colonyamericanfinance.com.
Thank you again, Robert.
Linda, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, everyone, thanks again for listening to our episode of Realty 411 Radio, our Invest Wisely segment. We really appreciate you listening and being in our support team. Please join us on our website. We're always updating it with new information, new events. Our Realty 411 magazine will be published in the next couple of weeks. So visit us online at realty411guide.com. Once again, realty411guide.com. I also would encourage you to visit our sister publication, REI Wealth Monthly, and that website is www.reiwealthmag.com. From everyone at Realty 411, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you again next week. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.